The Smile Wall of Eyes album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album, the second album from The Smile. That's right, from the people who brought you Radiohead. It's two members of Radiohead, Tom York and Johnny Greenwood, all alongside of Sons of Kemet drummer Tom Skinner, and hey, they're pretty freaking cool. And a few years back, seemingly out of nowhere, this project formed and put out their debut record, A Light for Attracting Attention, and at the time, I liked it a lot. You know what? Even nowadays, I like it even more. While, some of the softer tunes on here got a little too Radioheady. I know that's a little bit ridiculous, but it is true. For the most part, I thought this record and the sound of The Smile had enough going for it that this thing could very easily stand on its own 2 feet. Now, at the time, I did not know if we would ever hear from The Smile again. However, I did joke quite often that we would probably get another album from The Smile before we got one from Radiohead, and clearly that does seem to be the case here. But from the singles leading up to this thing, the Smile are certainly not just slouching here. With Wall of Eyes, this album's intro, the band seemingly picks up exactly where they left off, and that's not a bad thing. As a matter of fact, it sounds like an oddly more whimsical and slightly more upbeat track from Tom York's Suspiria soundtrack. It's very warm on the ears and still has a little bit of organic feel to it, mostly due to that strummed acoustic riff, which is really hypnotic. But don't worry, Tom's ghoulish vocals and the icy atmosphere will certainly bring you down a peg. Yeah, this track is awesome. I think it's actually my favorite cut here. And the strings and the dreary nature to this track are honestly immaculate, and as this track rolls on, it just becomes more and more hauntingly beautiful. Yeah, it's only grown on me. It's an awesome single. Yeah, apparently The Smile are here to stay, and I don't know about you, but that's okay with me. Teleharmonic is also really, really cool. This one, compared to the first track, is so much more desolate. I mean, this track is barren. It's a very alien sound with these swelling synths and Tom's very ghoulish vocals on this track. Yeah, the contrast is pretty wild. But the cosmic nature of this track is what really draws me in. I mean, there's a pretty extended jam on this track that is freaking awesome. Also, the vocal layering and the progression here, like A+, man. Also, Tom Skinner's drumming on this track, I think it's one of the best qualities to it. I think it just really makes this track hypnotic and mesmerizing. It's seemingly unfamiliar and very alien sounding, but there is a human touch deep down that sounds a lot like Radiohead. Under Our Pillows is the freakiest track here. I'm gonna be honest, it took me a while to get into this one. I mean, it's really hard to place. This track is constantly shifting, but after listening to it a handful of times, I actually think that's why I like it so much. It's also one of the more commanding tracks here in their own weird way. This track just gets more upbeat and winding, and the jam that it progresses into is actually one of my favorites here. There's elements of Krautrock and cosmic jazz, all with this very dystopian, very cold backdrop. And the final minute here, which is mostly just ambient, is, wow, it is cool. Now, I will say this. One of my biggest issues with their debut was I thought they didn't push their sound far enough. Like, yeah, I loved the sounds we were hearing, but I thought that they could just push themselves further and further from that classic Radiohead sound. But then I hear tracks like Read the Room, and this one really doesn't hit me that hard. The riff that we get here is winding as anything. It's easily the most hard to place track here. And listen, they really do push themselves throughout this album, but here, I think they push themselves too far. This bridge that we get here is just so, dainty and awkward, and I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, yeah, the woodwinds are super classy, and the second half of this track is a little bit more focused, but I think it's too little too late. I have a lot of the same feelings on I Quit. I will say this, though, about this track. The icy synth backdrop that we get here is, it is really cool. But Tom sounds absolutely lost on this track, and not in a cool way either. Not like Kid A, like Tom York lost in the future cool. No, he just sounds bored, and the longer this track goes on, the synths get more annoying than anything. Borderline goofy, and it's a shame because I think there's a good track somewhere in here deeply. But outside of that, though, this is pretty cool. Still, I'm looking for the Radiohead Moon-Shaped Pool follow-up that we all are, but this is certainly enough to wet my whistle for now. Friend of a friend, I'm going to be honest, I did not enjoy it at first. When it dropped as a single, I thought it was kind of weak, actually. But after a few listens, the pacing and the groove have warmed up to me. I mean, tracks like this seemingly have so many different corridors and ways to look at it. I would definitely recommend listening to this album a few times. But I love the pianos throughout this track that are so graceful, and Tom's vocals, which kind of just weirdly kind of combine with them. I was skeptical, but this track is gorgeous. Bending Hectic, I've loved it since it dropped as a single. This is a mammoth of a tune at over 8 minutes long, making it the longest track The Smile have ever put out. And they really let this track breathe. It takes its goddamn time. And while this track is a little bit more on the rails, I want to point out, it's actually one of the most human cuts here. It's overflowing with emotion. It's not nearly as cryptic as usual. It's a nice change of pace without really lessening on anything that's brought the band this much success so far. It's pretty cool. Not to mention, I just love how hellish and cacophonous it gets in the final 2 minutes. A+. And you know me, as a finale, I've got a lot of thoughts on this track. Very down the middle. This is a very middle-of-the-road finale. It's not bad, but it's certainly not that good either. And for one, it's one of the most surreal and genuinely freakish and weird cuts here. I mean, from a distance, it's actually really beautiful with these graceful pianos. Not only that, but the monochromatic film over this track gives it that Smile touch and definitely makes it their own. However, my only issue with this track is it's once again on the longer side. It kind of gets where it's going though in only 2.5, 3 minutes, and then it just kind of putters out, lolls around, doesn't really do much. Yeah, it's not the best finale. It's certainly not the worst either. Overall, this is another very, very, very solid offering from The Smile. And yeah, you know, all Radiohead jokes aside, I actually think that Tom, and Johnny actually really do a great job of setting themselves apart, pushing their sound further, bringing in elements of krautrock and cosmic jazz, and so much more. And it's a lot. There's a lot of interesting ideas here. And yeah, some of them are a little bit too freaky and weird for me, and just kind of annoying and underplayed in other parts. But for now, you know, while we wait for another Radiohead album, this one here, it's pretty darn good. I'm feeling a very strong 7 on this one, but let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.